Hello fellow pilgrims on this little blue planet. Today I thought I would talk to you about things that you will need or things that you will take on your pilgrimage at the beginning of your Camino walk, and show you what you receive at the end, and also talk a little bit about all the stuff that happens in between. My name is Mundy. This beautiful creature is Caper. She's a rescue greyhound and she mostly is a couch potato. But anyway, let's get started. A symbol for the Camino is a cockle shell. I presume it's a cockle shell, but you will find these on the backpacks of everybody who walks the Camino, from no matter where you start, whether you're starting at Porto in Portugal, like we did, partner and I, or whether you are starting from Tui in Spain or all sorts of places, you'll get one of these, or you need to get one of these. Hang it on the back of your backpack, and it just lets everybody know that you're a pilgrim. Although really, why else would you be wandering along a place with a backpack on? But anyway, it's part of the deal. It'll cost you around €2, and it's just a nice souvenir to take home. It's a symbol of the Camino because all the radiating lines like this all end in one spot, and that spot is Santiago de Compostela, or basically Little Rome. And yes, that's how you know that you've completed your Camino, because you end up there. It's a fascinating town. I think it only exists because of all the pilgrims there. I could be wrong. But anyway, you'll need one of these when you get started. Any cathedral, tourist place, bystander on the road will be able to sell you one of those for €2. I was thinking that it might be a problem bringing it back here into Australia, because we have extremely strict biosecurity rules, but no, this is perfectly fine because it's just basically a shell that's got, you know, a couple of holes and a thread through it. But yeah, so this was fine. So as any fellow Aussies out there thinking about doing a Camino, this is perfectly fine for you to pick up and then to bring back to Australia as a permanent souvenir of your epic adventure. You will be basically playing Pokemon Go as you walk along your Camino. And by that I mean you need to have a credential, one of these things, and you need to fill them up with stamps from cafes or cathedrals or any place that's got a stamp. Even some people by the side of the road who are selling the shells or any of those sorts of things. You will need to fill them up with stamps. The rule is that you need to get at least 2 stamps per day, and they will check them at Santiago before you are issued with your certificate. Now, this unfortunately is not mine. This is my partner's. Mine was in a bum bag, and I take full responsibility, took my bum bag off after the Camino. We were in Madrid. I hung it on the back of my chair, and voila, it went, along with my passport and my asthma puffer, and even worse, my everyday glasses, prescription glasses. I was wearing my prescription sunglasses at the time. Oh my gosh. What an epic story have I got to tell you, but that's for another video. But all I can say is, unfortunately, mine was stolen because, like I said, it was in the bum bag. And to be honest, I was more heartbroken about this than all the other things, because believe me, this cost blood, sweat and tears, or really, in my case, blisters, sweat and tears to be absolutely precise. But fortunately, because the partner and I popped into all the places at the same time, we have exactly the same stamps. So what I'm in the process of doing is I am photocopying both sides, and I'm going to end up framing all the stamps again as another permanent reminder of the epic adventure. And it probably will be nicer because you know, to see all the stamps, which incidentally, handy tip, do date them so that you are reminded about where you were, and it also helps at the other end in Santiago so they know that you didn't cheat. Yes, anyway, it'll be nice to be able to see and have a permanent reminder of all the places that we did pop into. So yes, hang on to one of these. Again, you will need this at the beginning of your Camino, and you will need to date it and then date it at the end. And it will cost you around €2, but you can't get a certificate at the end without one of these. So be sure to pick up your credential before you start your Camino. When you finally arrive at Santiago, it's a little overwhelming, and it's an odd feeling, to be perfectly honest. I was so relieved to finish walking because my feet with all the blisters were just dire. But at the same time, I was filled with a great deal of sadness that, oh no, this Camino has ended. Because despite the blisters, I absolutely loved it. It was so wonderful to meet the people and to stay at all these lovely places and to see the scenery and to wander along paths and bushwalks and in amongst little back end towns, and you would go to places that truly you would never ever see if you were in a car or a train or whatever getting from A to B. So there was with a great sense of relief of yes, I've done it, and also a sense of sadness, but also a great sense of I did it, I have completed it. Despite the blisters and sweat and tears, I've done it. I've walked this Camino. The Porto to Santiago is around 280 kilometers, and we did that in 11 days. So it was quite a walk. You know, it was awesome actually. But then you get to the main square at Santiago, and then you go, what now? Well, it's not clear. The signs are not really there. You kind of almost have to ask somebody or follow a whole bunch of people, but you end up going sort of to a side area and down some stairs and then along this street, and eventually you'll come up to a queue. And this particular place, I must admit, I forget what it's called, but you queue in there and there'll be a gentleman asking you whether you have filled in your application online. Didn't know there was a thing online, but apparently there is. But panic not if you don't. You can just wander in and you get online and fill in your details, and then you join another line, and then you'll be called in to this counter and somebody will want to see your credentials. And then they will ask you about your walk, and they will also ask you whether you want a certificate. Of course you do. Why else would you be there? But anyway, oops, in here, this is what it's all about. Let me show you. You can get two. I think it costs you about €2. Most things, €2 or €3. Can't actually remember. But you get two. And this one is the first one. Ta-da! That's to say you started, right? It'll give you your name. It'll tell you which particular route that you went, and we went the Porto via Tui to Santiago route. It'll tell you that, and it'll tell you that it started on, in our case, the 28th of May. So ta-da! And then you'll get one of these. Ta-da! Another ta-da. Sorry about that. And it'll say that you have completed the Camino on the 8th of June 2026. Oh my gosh, how exciting is that? And then you'll need something to keep it in. And so they'll charge you €2 or €3 for something like this. But get one, because otherwise, you know, how else are you going to carry these certificates around the place? But that's what you get. It's a certificate of completion, you know, the beginning and the end. And seriously, what an awesome sense of accomplishment it really is. A lot of people actually then leave Santiago more or less straight away. We came across a number of fellow pilgrims who were literally going there to Santiago, get a photo, get a certificate, and get on a plane, well, getting on a train first to go back to Porto to fly home, or they would go and fly out the next day. My recommendation to you would be, if you can, you know, depending on your work situation and your financial situation, take the time to stay in Santiago at least more than one night. It's a very interesting town. There's the medieval city part of it, which is incredibly old, and these fabulous cobblestone streets with these amazing buildings, and it's really fantastic. But then just outside of it, there's like it's a proper city, and that's worth exploring too. So yes, the destination of getting to Santiago to be able to get your certificate is important, but it's also quite nice to see the cafes and the restaurants and the souvenir shops. Oh, lots and lots and lots of souvenir shops. Actually, here's a handy tip. Along the walk, a couple of days out from Santiago, we came across people selling t-shirts about the Camino walk that we were doing, the Porto to Santiago, and I deeply regret not getting one of those. My theory was, I'll be able to pick one up in Santiago, and also it's another thing to carry. I should have not thought that. Yes, I could buy, and I did buy a t-shirt, but it wasn't the same. What I saw on the actual Camino was much better. Again, it was about 10, 11 euros. It really wasn't much, and that's about the same price as what you pay for in Santiago. But if you want something very specific, some enterprising people have, you know, made t-shirts, and my tip to you would, please, if you're interested in getting a t-shirt, get one of those. Otherwise, believe me, Santiago is a tourist town. It really is. There are probably at least 50 tourist shops selling everything from magnets to pens to you name it, you will find it there. But it's a very interesting town, and I would highly recommend that you spend a little bit of time there. Anyway, that's all I have to say. If you've got any hints and tips because you've done a Camino yourself, do feel free to comment down below. Yeah, and thank you very much for watching. Please like, share and subscribe, and I will see you shortly, another time, and tell you more about, you know, going for a walk. Anyway, thanks again. Bye.